one of the things that actually you just touched that is that, for instance, in a recent study, Nigeria appeared that, for instance, the American Nigerian is actually the most educated, um, I would say, culture in the US. So that shows as well the disparities of perception that we have when it comes to a country like Nigeria. And of course, someone like you that had a fantastic education is as well very focused on education. So I want to touch before I go to your career. So when I talk about Nigeria, there's a lot of course, history, a lot of confusion, and a lot of myths, I would say. So in one end, Nigeria has around 25 ethnical groups, but around 10 contribute to most of the population. And then, for us, if you look at the language, there's around 525 traditional languages in Nigeria. Someone that grew up on the history of the country, on a family that has over 1,000 years of history, and then study in the US, and as well as a successful business personality, both as a lawyer, established in the US, but established as well in Europe and Nigeria. So I would like to see, from your education, from what you mentioned to Nigeria, then to the US, how do you kept your culture and thrive? But I would like to see this on your culture, for instance, especially from Nigeria to the US, which of course is still the leading economy in the world. How do you saw that as well? And of course, Nigeria changed a lot in the last decades.
What we need to understand is that Nigeria has a very rich diversity. So for each of those, there is no ethnic group in Nigeria that speaks two languages. So when you have 400 or so ethnic groups or languages, it shows to you there are 400 and something ethnicities. And these ethnicities are not just tribes in the sense of, in the anthropological way, they are ethnic nationalities, they are nations. They were nations on their own before they became Nigeria. So they're not, it's just like European Union. Before European Union came, the Portuguese have been Portuguese, the Spanish are Spanish, the French, even within the French, the France is an amalgam of older ethnicities, Normandy, other places, Tuscany, all those places. So the same thing in Germany. Germany is not just one. The Germanic people have different nations, Prussia, different parts like that. So in the United Kingdom, they have the Scottish, the Welsh, the English, and the Irish. So that's how it is in Nigeria. These are different nationalities who were independent and who have been independent for a long time. But when colonial rule came, they were all put together. So what you get out of that is that when you experience the Igbo part of Nigeria, the tradition is rich, it's independent, is autochthonous to them. When you go to the Hausa speaking part of Nigeria, they are unique, they are self-sufficient in their cultural experience, and they can function clearly as an independent country. And even within the Hausa, we have different kingdoms. So it's not just Hausa kingdom. We have Kano, Rano, Sokoto, the Zozo, Zaria, and so many other Hausa communities like that. So in discussing ethnicity in Africa, scholars or commentators use loose terms like tribe. So if you were to call the entire French the French tribe, it won't make sense to the French. Or you call, you are in Brussels, and because you are in the United Nations headquarters, you say, oh, the Portuguese tribe. The Portuguese look at you like, what do you mean by Portuguese tribe? Portugal is the whole country. It's kids over the years. So why? So because we are now in the European Union, you think you can just call it tribe. So that's how it is in Nigeria. So these traditions have always been there. And the thing to note is that the amalgamation treaties signed with the British preserve these traditional institutions, and they still have authority. And in different parts of the country, as you go around, you will see that many people still conduct their affairs as if the British never came and their kingdom was never touched. So they still work with that. And I'll give you an example of that. Former president of Nigeria, Shehu Shagari, he was our president between 1979 and 1983. Prior to that, he had been our Minister of Finance, our Minister of Works, and the rest of it. When he retired as the president of Nigeria from politics, he went back to Sokoto, where he came from, and became a chief in Sokoto, and was taking up his duty, traditional duty, almost every day, going to the palace to perform his functions. And he would sit on the floor, obeisance and respect for the Sultan of Sokoto, even though he had been president of Nigeria. But he spent more years as a Sokoto chief than the 4 years he spent as Nigeria's president. So, and the same thing you will say about Obasanjo, who was president for many years, who is quite well known. In Abeokuta, where he comes from, as an Egba person, or an Owu person, he has his own traditional duty there, which he performs. And it doesn't matter that he's president. When he's in that community, they just know him by the title that he bears in the traditional system, and he takes his ranking according to his ranking. So he might be number 6 in the kingdom, but he's number 1 in the country. But that's for the country. But when he's in that community, he cannot speak before number 1 person speaks, second person speaks, or anything. So the system is alive. And so many of us who are princes take that responsibility more seriously. So you want to be president of Nigeria, you know the maximum you can do 2 terms or 4 years each. So 8 years you can be president. But for your entire life, from the day you are born to the day you die, you are a prince of the kingdom if you don't become the king. So that's an office that you carry around with you wherever you go. So it cannot be said, for example, that you are a prince of Ondo or Yo or Sokoto or Kano or Onitsha, and you went to prison in Portugal. The whole kingdom is in disarray. So that, or you didn't do well in an exam, or you cheated in an exam in some university in Australia, the kingdom is affected. So that sense of traditional identity is there.